I find that when exploring a new tool, that it's best to start with the end in mind. Everybody wants to design a professional and functional circuit when they start working with Eagle. Let's talk about what it takes in order to get there. Here's the Eagle control panel that shows all the different aspects to any design, specifically the projects, the cam jobs, the scripts. We'll go through all of that. But the most important things that matter to a finished design is the schematic file and the board file. Let's take a closer look at those. Here is an Arduino Mega design. They include this in any Eagle install. The schematic file and the board file is listed in the project because those are the two things that it takes to create a complete design. Let's start by looking at the schematic file. A schematic file defines where all the connections are made. For instance, if you want pin 1 of IC1 to go to pin 10 of IC3, you draw a wire to connect those. I'll zoom in to the power supply system to show what I mean. You can see that the connector on the left goes to the two different ICs, IC1 and IC2, to create the entire power supply system. Everything's defined and everything's very clear. This wire goes here. With a completed schematic, you can create a board file. Here's a completed board file for the Mega 2560. You can see everything is beautifully done. The lines are all routed. The components are all placed. The connectors are all placed. This looks great. This is ready for production. When you start, it doesn't look nearly this good. It'll be a mess of wires, spaghetti everywhere, and you'll have to decide where each component goes. And then once all the components are placed, you'll have to then decide where each of the wires go. It's a pretty neat arrangement to go from connections to placement. It allows for the flow of work to work really well. And in the end, you end up with a nice design that is professional and that works. I'm sure many of you are wondering where all these components come from. I could sit here and I could put a chip in here and a connector in here, but where do those chips, where do those connectors come from? And that is a very important component of any PCB design tool. Eagle has libraries where they store the information on the schematic design and the PCB design. Let's take a closer look at those. Component libraries consist of symbols, which are used in the schematic, packages, which are used in the PCB layout, and devices, which define how each symbol correlates to each package. We'll talk more about that later, but let's open up and just see a quick part. This is a diode that's in an already created library that's included in the Eagle install. You can see in the control panel the schematic symbol on the left and the PCB package on the right. This device has everything that's needed in order to define where wires go and what the PCB layout should look like for this particular part. We're going to talk a lot about how these libraries are found, how these components can be searched out on the internet, and also how they can be created custom. But for now, it's sufficient to say we take these components, we place them on schematics, we connect them up, we put them on the board, we place them, we route them, and then we're done. The end result is a beautiful PCB like this one.